The first time I met Ryan's mother, she looked me up and down the way someone studies a price tag. Her pearls caught the light as she smiled, thin and polite. "So, you're the one keeping my son busy these days." I laughed softly, trying to be friendly. "I guess I am." Her eyes flicked to my shoes, then my hair. "You're a teacher, right?" "How sweet." "Sweet. Not smart. Not accomplished. Just sweet." Ryan squeezed my hand under the table, a warning I understood: don't argue. Dinner went on with stories about charity events, wine tastings, and country club drama. I sat there, nodding when expected. When we left, Ryan sighed. "Don't take it personally. She's old-fashioned." I wanted to believe that, but I saw the judgment in her eyes. Still, I smiled. I told myself love would make her see me differently. I was wrong. The comments started small. "At our engagement party," she said, "that dress is lovely, dear." So simple. At the wedding rehearsal dinner, she whispered to a cousin, public school teacher, "Such a modest career choice." Ryan always brushed it off. "She'll warm up." But she didn't. She froze me out instead. When we bought our starter home, tiny, 2 bedrooms, she toured it like a museum she didn't want tickets for. "Oh," she said, touching the kitchen counter. "Laminate. How practical." Ryan laughed awkwardly. "We're saving for better things." She smiled at him, not at me. "Of course you are." That night I cried in the bathroom. Ryan knocked softly. "Please, don't let her get to you." I wiped my face. "I won't." But I already knew I would. When I got pregnant, Ryan's mother turned the news into an inspection. She arrived with a list. "Organic foods only," she said. "And no fast food. Classy women care about what goes in their bodies." She hired a photographer, for herself, to announce she was becoming a grandmother. She called it her brand reveal. I smiled for the photos anyway. I wanted peace. The day our son was born, she brought a white cashmere blanket. "Family heirloom," she said loudly, so the nurse could hear. "Hand-washed only." When I wrapped my baby in a soft cotton one instead, she frowned. "Some things just don't suit everyone," she murmured. I was exhausted, too tired to argue. But I heard it clearly: I wasn't classy enough to raise her grandchild. And something inside me broke quietly that day. The months after that felt like walking through glass. She'd drop by uninvited, rearranging things to make the place look better. Once, she replaced our hand towels with embroidered ones bearing her initials. Ryan didn't notice. "She's just helping," he said. Helping felt like erasing me. One afternoon she brought over silver baby utensils and said, "Plastic spoons look so ordinary." I smiled tight. "Ordinary suits us fine." Her lips curved. "Of course. I forget not everyone grew up around standards." That night I rocked my baby and whispered promises he'd never feel small the way I did. When I looked out at the dark yard, I made another promise to myself: someday, she'd see what ordinary could build. Money was tight, but I loved teaching. Still, I started taking side work, tutoring, online courses, weekend art projects. Ryan supported it half-heartedly. "You're already tired enough." "I'm building something," I said. He didn't ask what. Maybe he didn't want to know. Every extra dollar went into a secret account. Not for shoes, not for vacations. For freedom. Late nights after the baby slept, I'd design lesson resources and sell them online. Sales trickled in, then poured. Teachers from other states started using my materials. When I hit my first $1,000, I cried. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I didn't tell Ryan or his mother. I just kept going. Because quietly, beneath the polite smiles and insults, a new kind of determination was taking root. If she thought I wasn't classy enough, I'd redefine what class meant. When our son turned 2, my business had tripled. I'd built a small website, simple and clean, with downloadable teaching kits. Teachers emailed me with thank yous, and schools began reaching out for bulk orders. Every ping of my phone felt like a small win. Meanwhile, Ryan's mother kept her tone sugary and sharp. At a family brunch, she leaned toward me. "You're still working those little projects online?" "Yes," I said evenly. "They're growing fast." She smiled. "That's nice. Keeps you busy, I suppose." Busy. As if I were a hobbyist playing pretend. Later that week, Ryan came home with a frown. "Mom says you're pushing yourself too hard. She thinks you should rest more." I stared at him. "I think your mom should focus on her own schedule." He sighed. "Don't start." But something already had started, an ache, small but sharp, that whispered I was meant for more than approval. When Ryan got a promotion, his mother threw a dinner to celebrate. Her house looked like a magazine, white walls, marble counters, flowers that probably had assistants. I wore a simple navy dress. She greeted me with a glance that lingered on my shoes again. "So practical," she said. "Comfort over fashion, hmm?" I smiled. "Comfort is a kind of wealth." Her eyebrow arched. At dinner she bragged about Ryan's new title and her charity events. When talk turned to my work, she said, "Oh, Amelia's doing something online, I think." "Teaching crafts?" "Curriculum design," I corrected. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Of course." The table laughed politely. I chewed slowly, reminding myself that revenge could wait. Success was cooking quietly, and I wasn't going to burn it by reacting too soon. By the time our son started preschool, my business had grown too large for evenings. I registered it officially, hired 2 assistants, and turned our guest room into an office. Ryan didn't fully understand. "You're quitting teaching?" "I'm expanding teaching," I said. His mother called the next day. "You're really leaving a stable job for the internet?" "Yes." She laughed softly. "Well, I hope it works out, dear. Not everyone's built for that world." That night, I stayed up designing a new product line, interactive literacy kits. I mailed samples to schools across the state. 3 months later, a district ordered 200 sets. When the check cleared, I upgraded my website and opened a small studio downtown. The walls smelled of paint and promise. I didn't invite her to see it. Not yet. My success became impossible to hide. Boxes of supplies filled our living room. The local paper ran an article titled "Teacher Turned Entrepreneur Brings Classrooms to Life." Ryan was proud, but nervous. "Mom saw the article," he said carefully. I kept typing. "And?" "She thinks it's nice." That nice again. A week later she visited, holding the newspaper. "Congratulations, dear." "So surprising." "Thank you," I said. Her gaze wandered over the boxes. "I suppose clutter is the price of ambition." I smiled thinly. "Success can be messy." She didn't reply. After she left, I walked through my house, breathing in the chaos, the paper, the crayons, the sound of a printer humming. It was alive. I realized I didn't need her approval anymore. But part of me still wanted her to see what I could do. The real turning point came when a national education company emailed me about a partnership. They wanted to feature my materials in their teacher subscription boxes. I almost dropped my phone. Ryan was thrilled. "This is huge." Even his mother couldn't ignore it. She called that evening. "So you're partnering with a company now?" "Yes," I said calmly. Well, she said after a pause, that's quite something for someone who never cared for appearances. It was almost a compliment. When the first royalties arrived, I paid off our car loan and set up a college fund for our son. I didn't post about it. I just worked harder. And as the money grew, so did my confidence. But success, I was learning, doesn't silence critics, it exposes them. Ryan's mother began visiting less but calling more. Every conversation was a test. Do you still have time for your son? She'd ask. Or is the business taking all of you now? I manage, I'd say simply. Well, just remember, children need presents more than presents. I bit my tongue every time. She had never been the one picking up toys at midnight or budgeting groceries. One afternoon, I drove past her country club. She was outside laughing with her friends, wearing pearls, waving like a queen. For a second, I imagined walking in, dressed in confidence instead of couture. But I kept driving. I didn't need to prove anything, yet. At home, I opened my inbox to a new message from the education company. They wanted me to consult on curriculum design for the entire region. I whispered to myself, let's see who's classy now. The next year changed everything. My brand became a full company. I hired 4 employees and leased a bigger studio near downtown. The walls were painted pale gold, sunlight spilling across stacks of colorful learning kits. Local schools started inviting me to speak at workshops. Reporters called for interviews. When a business magazine asked for photos, I finally bought my first tailored suit. Ryan said, "You look incredible." His mother saw the feature online. The next day, she sent a text, "Proud of you." It was short, maybe even honest. But the word proud felt hollow coming from her. Still, I saved the message. Sometimes small cracks in a wall meant it was starting to crumble. And I wasn't done yet. One autumn morning, Ryan came home with news. "Mom's hosting her annual charity gala," he said. "She asked if we'd like to come this year." I froze. "She invited me?" He nodded. "She said it's time to show the family's united front." I laughed. United front or parade of approval? He didn't answer. Part of me wanted to refuse, but another part, the calm, steady one, wanted to walk in with quiet power. So I said yes. The night of the gala, I wore a simple black dress, fitted and clean, no brand label screaming for attention. My confidence was my accessory. When we arrived, heads turned, not because of glitter, but because I looked unbothered. Ryan's mother kissed my cheek. "You look polished." For her, that was almost poetic. During dinner, people asked about my company. Before I could answer, Ryan's mother said smoothly, "Amelia's had some success with educational materials." "It's adorable, really." Adorable. I smiled. It's been fulfilling. We just signed a deal with 3 states for early literacy programs. The table went quiet. She blinked. 3 states? Yes, I said, taking a sip of water. We're expanding next quarter. One man across the table chuckled. Sounds like more than adorable. Her laugh was sharp but shaky. Well, that's wonderful, dear. I just smiled. Later, when the night ended, I walked past the ballroom mirrors and saw myself reflected back, steady, composed, untouchable. For the first time, I didn't just feel successful. I felt free. After the gala, something shifted. She stopped making cutting remarks. Instead, she'd ask small questions about the business, how I balance things, what inspired me. It felt cautious, almost human. Ryan noticed. She's trying, he said. Maybe, I answered. I didn't trust it yet. Months later, my company was featured in a national morning show. The host called me an education innovator bringing creativity back to classrooms. Messages flooded in: teachers, parents, investors. Ryan's mother sent flowers with a card: "You make us proud." This time, I believed her. Because pride didn't come from pearls or polished floors, it came from work that mattered. And maybe, just maybe, she was finally starting to see that. The next few months were a blur of travel, meetings, and deadlines. My company partnered with a national foundation to provide free resources to underfunded schools. Every success felt bigger than the last, yet inside, I stayed grounded. Ryan supported me completely, proud but quiet. Our son, now 6, would tell people, "My mom helps teachers." That meant more than any award. One Saturday, Ryan's mother invited us for lunch. Her tone over the phone was softer than I'd ever heard. When we arrived, she had baked pies, real ones, not the kind bought from a store and plated to look homemade. "I thought I'd try a new recipe," she said. It startled me. Over lunch, she asked about our son's school and my travel plans. No snide comments, no judgment. Driving home, Ryan smiled. Maybe she's learning. I wanted to believe that. Change, I was realizing, sometimes began quietly. That fall, I was invited to speak at a national education summit in Chicago. The stage lights, the applause, the cameras, it felt unreal. When I stepped down, my phone buzzed. A message from Ryan's mother: "Watched the live stream. You were wonderful." I didn't know she even knew how to find it. Later that night, in the hotel room, I stared at the message for a long time. The woman who once measured my worth by my shoes was now proud of my words. I texted back, "Thank you. It means a lot." And it did. Not because I needed her approval anymore, but because I had earned her respect. Sometimes the sweetest victory wasn't in proving someone wrong, it was in giving them a chance to see you right. A year later, we moved into a larger house near the edge of town. It had wide porches, tall windows, and a garden our son loved. Ryan's mother came to visit one weekend. She walked through every room quietly, touching the walls, looking at the framed art made from children's drawings. "This place is beautiful," she said finally. "Thank you." She turned toward me. "You've built something remarkable. Not just the house, the life." Her voice trembled slightly. "I was wrong about you, Amelia." I swallowed hard. People change slowly, like seasons. But in that moment, I knew this one was real. I smiled. "Thank you for saying that." She nodded. "Your son's lucky to have you." And for the first time, I believed she truly meant it. The following spring, my company reached its 5-year mark. We celebrated with an open house at the studio, music, laughter, teachers everywhere. Ryan's mother came, dressed simply this time, without her usual glitter. She mingled with staff, listened, even helped arrange refreshments. At one point, I found her watching me from across the room. When our eyes met, she smiled, not with judgment but pride. Later, she said quietly, "I used to think class came from appearance. I see now it comes from purpose." I felt tears sting my eyes. "Class," I said softly, "is treating people with kindness, no matter where they start." She nodded. That evening, as lights dimmed and the guests left, she hugged me tightly. It wasn't cold or staged, it was real. Months later, Ryan's mother fell ill. Nothing serious at first, just fatigue, but she needed help. I visited her often, bringing soup, fresh flowers, and books. One afternoon she said, "You don't have to fuss over me." "I know," I said. "But I want to." Her eyes softened. "You've shown me more grace than I ever showed you." I sat beside her. "We've both learned." She smiled faintly. "I used to believe success was about status. Now I think it's about peace." Her voice trembled. "You found it, didn't you?" I nodded. Eventually. She reached for my hand. I'm proud of you, Amelia. Truly proud. For the first time in years, tears fell easily. Forgiveness wasn't about forgetting the hurt, it was about choosing love anyway. When summer came, she was strong enough to travel again. She asked if she could stay with us for a few days. Of course, I said. The first night, she sat on our porch swing while our son showed her his drawings. Fireflies danced in the yard. You've made this house feel alive, she said softly. It's home, I replied. She smiled at our son's laughter. He reminds me of Ryan when he was small, except happier. I looked at her carefully. She wasn't the same woman who'd once measured me by my dishes or curtains. Her voice had lost its sharp edges. Before bed, she whispered, "Thank you for not giving up on me." I wanted to tell her that I had, many times, but that life gave us both a second chance. Instead, I just said, "Good night." Forgiveness, I realized, didn't always arrive with words. Sometimes it came with silence and peace. That year, my company opened its second location, this one a training center for new teachers. We offered free workshops, mentoring, and grants for classroom innovation. At the opening ceremony, Ryan's mother stood beside me, proud as anyone. When a reporter asked who inspired me most, I surprised even myself when I said, "My family." Afterward, she squeezed my hand. I never expected to hear that. I smiled. Neither did I. She laughed, eyes shining. You've grown into someone extraordinary. I shook my head. I just grew into myself. The crowd applauded as we cut the ribbon together. It struck me how full circle everything had become. The woman who once doubted my worth was now part of my story of strength. Weeks later, she hosted a small family dinner, nothing grand, just home-cooked comfort food. The table was warm with laughter and the smell of roasted herbs. She served me first. Ryan grinned. Mom's finally letting someone else lead. She rolled her eyes. I'm retired from being difficult. After dinner, she handed me an envelope. Inside was a photo from our wedding, newly framed. I kept this on my dresser all these years, she said. I used to look at it and think you didn't belong. Now I see you were exactly what Ryan needed, and what I needed too. Tears blurred my vision. Thank you, I whispered. She smiled. You taught me that class isn't about money. It's about grace. Her words healed something deep that I didn't even know still hurt. As the years passed, life grew gentler. My company thrived, but I worked fewer hours. Ryan's mother spent more time with us, baking with our son, teaching him family recipes. One afternoon, as we sat by the window watching rainfall, she said, "You know, Amelia, I used to envy women who looked perfect. Now I envy women who live honestly." I looked at her, surprised. That's new wisdom. She chuckled. Late, but earned. When she spoke again, her voice was soft. You could have hated me forever. You didn't. I almost did, I admitted. But hate's too heavy to carry. She nodded. Then maybe we both learned what real class is. I smiled. I think so. Outside, the rain slowed. The house smelled of cinnamon and forgiveness. Years later, when she passed peacefully in her sleep, I found a letter in her handwriting. Amelia, it began, you taught me that grace is louder than pride. I once thought you weren't enough. Now I know you were more than I ever deserved. Love, Marianne. I sat on the porch with the letter in my lap, sunlight warming my face. Ryan joined me quietly, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. She loved you, you know, he said. I know, I whispered. In the distance, our son's laughter echoed across the yard. The life I'd built wasn't out of spite anymore, it was out of love, growth, and peace. His mother had once said I wasn't classy enough to raise her grandkids. Now, I'd built a life she couldn't afford to visit because it wasn't made of wealth or walls. It was made of grace.